Hello, bonjour, and welcome to your new Alti Wine Exchange video. This is episode number 2 of your new series about fine and rare wine investment. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at a quick overview of your investment grade fine and rare wines from Bordeaux, France. This is going to be a 4-part episode dedicated to the wines from Bordeaux because there is quite a bit to cover, different sub-areas and many excellent wines from Bordeaux. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to follow along the journey. Today we're going to be looking at the wines that command the highest prices and the highest prestige on the market, coming from the right bank, and to what makes them so special. Next week we'll talk about the left bank and the 1855 classification before talking about the sweet wines from Sauternes and other rarities from around the Bordeaux region. But let's focus for now on Pomerol and Saint-Émilion specifically. Let's go. If you look at a list of all the most expensive Bordeaux wines, by the way, you can find this list down the video description, you might be surprised to find out that they are not at all classified chateaus of the famous 1855 classification. In fact, out of the top 20 most expensive Bordeaux wines, about 7 are from the right bank. Wines from Saint-Émilion and Pomerol. So why is this, you may wonder? Well, let's break things down briefly. First of all, you have to know that when the classification of the best wines from Bordeaux was ordered back then by Napoleon III in 1855, and we'll cover the 1855 classification topic in future videos because it's absolutely fundamental and very interesting. Back then, the wines from the right bank were not considered at all in the ranking because at the time those wines weren't considered as good as the left bank. They weren't traded internationally on the international wine market like those of the left bank. At the time, wine from the right bank were considered relatively modest, humble, while the great chateaus of the left bank were already very well established. But the quality and the reputation of Pomerol and Saint-Émilion has dramatically increased since, to the point that they are now some of the best, rarest and most age-worthy wines that you can find from Bordeaux, often indeed surpassing those of the left bank. From a pricing standpoint, Saint-Émilion wines, and even more so those of Pomerol, are rarer than those from the left bank. And that's simply because the estates, the size of the estates, are just smaller on the right bank. The very best Saint-Émilions and Pomerols are made in very limited quantities of bottles, much smaller quantities than the large estates and properties from Médoc, yet with an outstanding quality, hence them commanding higher prices. They're rarer, so they're dearer. Some top properties in Pomerol cover no more than just a few acres, like Le Pin, one of the big names there, for example, which has a vineyard surface area of 2.7 hectares or 6 acres only, while the properties on the left bank can be 200 acres or more, like some of the top names, Chateau Latour or Chateau Margaux, are pretty large. Therefore, their wine output in terms of quantity is much higher. You've probably also heard that what distinguishes the wines from the right bank as opposed to those of the left bank beyond the location is that they are made using an emphasis on the Merlot and Cabernet Franc grapes as opposed to Cabernet Sauvignon on the left bank. These slightly different grape varieties lead to slightly different styles of red wines, but they are also extremely complex and immensely age-worthy wines as well, hence their value too. It is to be noted that wines from Merlot and Cabernet Franc at that quality level are just much rarer around the world than high-end wines from Cabernet Sauvignon, which you can find from different countries like the United States, Napa Valley for example. Virtually only Bordeaux and perhaps a little bit of Tuscany and the Loire Valley arguably as well. Only Bordeaux makes such fine wines from Merlot and Cabernet Franc, amplifying the unique and rare character of those wines. In addition, both in Pomerol and in Saint-Émilion, the very best terroirs, the very best soils able to consistently make outstanding wines year after year are in very small patches of land. In Saint-Émilion, one part of those exceptional terroirs is located on the limestone hill around the village, which if you've ever visited Saint-Émilion, the village, you can probably tell that it's a pretty small patch of land and of vineyards. While another fantastic but small area is precisely where the appellation of Pomerol and Saint-Émilion meet, and this is also very small, but that's where you're going to be finding the highest concentration of high-end Bordeaux properties such as the Cheval, Blanc, Angelus, Pétrus, Évangile, such great names, which leads us indeed to talk about which chateaus are the very best wines on the right bank. In Saint-Émilion, the most reputable chateaux are listed in what we call the 2012 classification of the wines from Saint-Émilion. I'll link to that list in the video description, with the very best wines and chateaux being titled Premier Grand Cru Classés of the A category. There are 4 of those that are all among the most expensive Saint-Émilion wines and Bordeaux wines in general, and that's Chateau Cheval Blanc, Chateau Ausone, Pavie and Angelus. Other top names in Saint-Émilion, there are many, include Lamandot, Figeac or Tertre Rotebeuf, just to name a few. Now, Pomerol doesn't have any classification system. Pricing makes the classification here if you wish. Properties in Pomerol are very small, and the terroir of Pomerol is extremely rare. You just can't find such a terroir anywhere else around the world. So wines are very rare, small productions and also very expensive. Some of the top names in Pomerol include Pétrus, of course, which has been pretty much the most expensive Bordeaux wine now for decades, commanding prices now well over $3,000 a bottle. Other top names in Pomerol include Le Pin, which is catching up with Pétrus, and Chateau Lafleur, while there are many other prestigious names all over Pomerol, like those of Vieux Chasseau Certain, La Violette, l'Église Clinée, l'Évangile, Trotanois, La Conseillante. There are so many, too many to name them all here. And I'll leave it here for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next part of this 4-part episode about the fine and rare wines from Bordeaux, we'll look at the top chateaux from Médoc, yes, in the 1855 classification, with such prestigious investment-grade wines as Chateau Margaux, Chateau Latour, Mouton and Lafite, Rothschild, and quite a few more. I will see you soon in the wonderful world of fine and rare wine, investment-grade wines. Cheers!